Welcome to Digital Business Strategy mock paper discussion. I think you have gone through the previous two videos on the pilot paper discussion we had, and you have also tried this mock paper and answered it by yourself, and now you are ready to see how each of these questions are answered based on the syllabus and the textbook. So I have the textbook opened here. This is your textbook, the English version for Digital Business Strategy, BL8. So let's start from the first question. Select the characteristics of a strategic business decision. Right. Now, the answers given here are a bit of mixed up. So let's first look at how it is explained in the textbook. So if you go to the textbook, I will directly go to that section where this is discussed. So in this section, characteristics of a strategic business decision. So in the page 7, it's clearly defined. So you can see complexity, uncertainty, effect on business operations, and how the entire organization or business is affected. So these are the characteristics of a strategic decision. So when we discuss about complexity, it says that these decisions are involving different information, different factors are considered. So therefore the decision itself is very much complex. And same for the uncertainty, because these decisions are taken thinking about the future. So decisions taken for a number of years ahead will give a high degree of uncertainty. And when the strategic decisions are taken, it affects the operational aspect of the business. And finally, when the operational aspects are affected, then other parts of the business also get affected by the strategic decisions. So if we go back and see what are the answer points given, it says ambiguity, complexity, volatility, and uncertainty. So if you see the points given in the textbook is complexity, uncertainty, and the effect to the business operations and the overall business. So the correct answer should be complexity and uncertainty. So the correct answer is, at this moment, it's C. Right. Now let's move on to the question number 2. In which value chain activity is electronic processing at the point of sale used? So to talk about this, again let's go to the textbook. So this is where it talks about the impact of technology on the value chain. So if you look at the question again, what value chain activity is electronic processing at the point of sale used? So the answer given in this one, it includes inbound logistics, procurement, marketing and sales, outbound logistics. So if you look at what describes here in the textbook, in inbound logistics, it talks about material requirements planning, enterprise resource planning. So inbound logistics, it's talking about the technologies which are adding value here. And in the operations, the value chain activity called operations is all about computer integrated manufacturing, computer aided manufacturing, and artificial intelligence and enterprise resource planning. So the value chain activity and the technology which is adding value for operations are these. And when we talk about outbound logistics, it talks about the warehouse management systems and how technologies like RFID, which is radio frequency identification technology, is used in these logistics. And then in marketing and sales activity, retailers can use EPOS system, the electronic processing at the point of sale of checkout. So this is what the question is also mentioning, electronic processing at the point of sale. So the activity here is using marketing and sales is being value added by this technology. So the answer should be C. So the other aspects of the value chain also, you can see there are different technologies. For example, for procurement, it's electronic data interchange technology, how the suppliers and other parties are linked through, and even HRM practices, how the HRM processes are using these technologies. So the correct answer is C. Now let's move on to the question number 3. External users become dependents of an organization's information content as a result of, it should be one of these. So the answer points given is supranet, intranet, extranet, and workflow system. So the external users become dependents of an organization's information system, right? So if you really look at the first 3 answers are talking about a network or a system where internal or external, either of these parties or both of these parties, can work on. So straight away we can remove the answer D, which is not used to connect different parties. So it should be either supranet, intranet, or extranet. So now let's see what the textbook is saying about it. So workflow system is a system where everyone included in the system are performing a set of tasks. So the question here is talking about depending on the organization's information, which is not tallying with a workflow system. Now if we look at the other aspects of it, it talks about intranet, extranet, intranet, and supranet. So if you have gone through this by now you have understood that intranet and extranet are the 2 aspects of the computer system and the network an organization is having. Intranet is the internal aspect of the network where the staff members and other people who are within the organization, who are working in the organization and within the organization itself, through that they use these systems. Extranet is the portion of the intranet, part of the intranet, which is available to be accessed from outside of the organization as well. So this can be accessed by staff members also when they are not in the organization, when they are from their homes, or when they are at the site, or when they are doing the field work, or when they are at different places. They can use the company network. Part of it is available in the internet where they can log in and connect, right? Usually through a VPN. And that extranet also we divide into 2 segments called intranet and supranet. This is purely the base of how the organization controls the extranet part of it. So when we say intranet, this is what all the stakeholders in the organization can connect with the organization's network, but still the organization is having full control over the network. So organization is extending their login or the interface to people who are working with the organization. But the supranet part of it is not owned by the organization, but any organization sometimes can connect to a network where they do not have the ownership, but they communicate with that network. So network is not governed or owned by the organization, but many organizations, they connect to certain networks. For example, the crib information network, where a lot of financial institutions, they connect to get information about individuals, their financial status, and to submit information on individuals when they obtain loans and other products or services from the financial institutions. So a system like crib is not controlled by the banks, it's controlled by the government institution, but the organizations which are participating in this one, they exchange information. They are both giving information to the network and they're collecting information from the network, but they don't have the control over the network. Whereas the intranet is the extension of the internal network to external accessible for known parties, but still having control over the network. So if you look at the question here, now we can clearly rule out this A part which is not suitable here, and we removed D answer as well in the beginning. Now this is about intranet and extranet. So this is the network where external users become dependents of an organization information content, which is part of the organization's extranet. So organization's extranet, there is a intranet aspect of it where external users are depending on it. So the answer is answer B. All right. Let's move on to the fourth question. Which of the following statement is correct with reference to the stages of research and development? Let's look at what are the statements given. Applied research often has a commercial aspect. In most instances, applied research is funded by governments. Pure research has no obvious commercial or practical end in the view. Development stage uses the newest scientific and technical knowledge to produce new products or processes. So to understand this, let's move on to the section in this where this is described. So if you look at research and development for value creation section in the textbook, it identifies in the research and development there is pure research, there is applied research, and there is development. So what is pure research? This is where original research happens to obtain new knowledge, and this research is not done thinking of a financial target. So this is pure research, is not commercial research. This is not targeting to create a product or service or to earn money. This is as the word says, purely done to understand or gain new knowledge. So this is pure research. So this is mostly funded by government or universities, where they are not expecting any financial return. Now applied research is, the research part of it is same, but with a commercial intention. So applied research is done to find knowledge and to get technical expertise, but targeting a commercial or financial gain. So this research is done by private organizations, commercial entities. They spend money on finding new knowledge so that they can create new products and services for financial gain. Development is not finding any new knowledge or technology. Development is using the existing technology to make the existing products or services better. So improving the products or services is the development. So there is no new knowledge being found. So there is no research happening. Development is just using whatever the technologies are available and try to improve the products or services. So if you go back to the question, it says applied research often has a commercial aspect, which is correct. In most instances, applied research is funded by government. So you saw that pure research is funded by government and universities. Applied research are done by private commercial organizations because it's having a financial target. So this one, the second one, is not correct. Pure research has no obvious commercial or practical end, which is correct. Pure research is just to get the new knowledge or the new technology to be found. So there is no commercial aspect of it. So 3 also correct. Development stage uses the newest scientific knowledge and technical knowledge to produce new products or processes, which is not correct because it's not going to produce new products or services with new knowledge. It's going to improve the existing products or services with the existing knowledge. So the answer for the question 4 is part D, which is 1 and 3. Let's move on to question number 5. Possibility to access data from any part of the network is a benefit of. So let's see what are the answers. Connected devices, centralized and decentralized processing, intranets, cloud computing. So let's look at how it is explained in the textbook. Right. So this is explained in different IT infrastructure table. This is explained. So it's talking about the standalone computers, the information on that. It's talking about what is a network, and then it's discussing intranets and extranets, and it's talking about connected devices, and finally centralized and decentralized processing. So if you go back to the question again, possibility to access data from any part of the network is a benefit of, from which are these? So straight away we can see cloud computing is not related to this question because cloud computing is having a different focus on scalable resources. So this is talking about in which part of the network or what type of attribute of the network is based on this. So if you look at connected devices, centralized and decentralized processing, and intranets, if you really look at from the last one, within a network the actual processing of data may be at a local level or may be centralized in one of the network's larger computers. But it is possible to process data from any part of the network when required. So even though it's centralized, where the data is being processed in a main server or the head office or wherever, or even the data is being processed in individual department wise or the individual computer, whatever that happens, still because of this, the data can be accessed from any part of the network. So the possibility to access data from any part of the network is a benefit of centralized and decentralized processing. Right. So let's move on to question number 6. The availability of common internet infrastructure, networks and protocols, and the development of a graphical user interface has assisted in the growth of. Is it content marketing? Is it e-commerce? Is it emails? Or is it e-bills? So let's look at how it explains here. So if you look at where it explains on the internet, you can clearly see that it says that availability of common internet infrastructure of computers, networks and protocols, and the development of an easy to use graphical user interface, which we call an GUI, have been the catalyst for growth of e-commerce. So it has created an open community that it is easy to join and easy to use. So this is talking about the e-commerce growth because of all these computers, networks and different protocols and a good user interface. It has helped the e-commerce to grow. So if you look at the question 6, the answer is e-commerce. So we have to select C as the answer. Now let's move on to question number 7. Select the correct statements with reference to knowledge management. So this question is about knowledge management. So let's see what are the 4 statements to see which one is correct. Knowledge management is effective when it is an IT driven strategy. Is that correct? Let's see. Senior management support is compulsory to implement a knowledge management strategy. Knowledge management may also improve productivity through higher workforce motivation. A culture of knowledge sharing is a must for knowledge management. So this is talking about knowledge management. In page 14 you can see step by step in the textbook. It's talking about knowledge management. So let's look at some aspects of it. It's talk about support from senior management is really important for knowledge management, and the required IT infrastructure is needed, and advanced databases and database management systems are needed for managing knowledge in organizations, and importantly a sharing culture, because all the staff members should be willing to share their knowledge rather than keeping it with them. So sharing culture is needed, and whatever the knowledge has to be captured and recorded on the databases which we saw here, has to be stored after capturing all this knowledge. So in a summary, they are saying that what is effective knowledge management? They are saying effective knowledge management is 80% a managerial and organizational thing. It is only a 20% thing where the technology is concerned. So technology is not the main factor here in knowledge management. 80% of the factor is how management is driving this, the senior management, how their support and how ready the organization in terms of people accepting to share knowledge, the sharing culture and all that, how that is contributing is contribution to the effective knowledge management. Only 20% is the technology content. So technology is not the main thing in knowledge management. So if you look at the question number 7, it says knowledge management is effective when it's an IT driven strategy, which is not, because IT is only about 20% of the knowledge management. So then if you look at all the other 3 aspects of it, all these things are correct statements. Management support, and when the knowledge management is properly done, it will help the people to work more productively, so therefore they will be motivated, and there is a culture, knowledge sharing culture is required for knowledge management. So these 3 are correct, so therefore the answer D can be marked as correct. Let's move on to question number 8. Which of the following statement or statements are correct with reference to how data mining can contribute to organizational learning? So what are the 3 points given? Discovering previously known relationships, predicting the future behavior of people, providing insights that cannot be obtained through ordinary summary reports. So let's look at what it mentions in the textbook. So in the textbook in chapter 4 talks about data mining. And data mining is about discovering previously unknown relationships. So in the question you see one answer point is saying discovering previously known relationships, which is not true, which is wrong. Data mining is all about to find out relationships which are not clearly seen. So after data mining, these hidden patterns and relationships can be emerged. Right. So if you look at the other two aspects of it, predicting future behavior of people. So as an example, it says they noted that the supermarket can use the loyalty card to create a record of items each customer has bought, and then can use the details about the purchasing behavior of its customers to create a profile of what kind of people they are and to identify trends in the items they buy. So predicting the future behavior of people is also a feature of data mining. So with data mining, this is what you are trying to do. You are trying to understand what the customers and how their behaviors are, and providing insights that cannot be obtained through summary reports. So through summary reports, for example, reports from MIS is just giving you the data and the information. It does not gives you an analysis of possible relationships. So for this, the answer consists of these two statements, because the first one is wrong. So the answer here is 2 and 3. The answer is B. Now let's move on to question number 9. Select the statements with the correct example with reference to each value chain activity. So to look at that, let's go and see what are the value chain activities. So in this section, it's talking about each value chain activity. Even for the previous question, we looked at this. So the question is saying operations are having computer integrated manufacturing, and service is having electronic data interchange. Inbound logistics is having material requirement planning, and outbound logistics having just-in-time purchasing. So if you really look at how these things are happening here is material requirements planning is covered in the inbound logistics value chain. So if you look at the answer points here, operations, computer integrated manufacturing. So if you look at operations, what it covers, computer integrated manufacturing and computer aided manufacturing, both are value adding technologies in the operations value chain. So that is correct. This is correct. In the service section, electronic data interchange. In the service section, it's not covered in the service section. Electronic data interchange is covered in the procurement section, as you can see. Because we discussed earlier also how during the procurement aspect, how suppliers and other parties are linked through this electronic data interchange. So inbound logistics and outbound logistics. Inbound logistics, you have material requirements planning. Outbound logistics is about warehouse management and using technologies like RFID. So if you look at what is the answer for this question is, this is correct and this is also correct. So the answer point is D. Because service, you don't have electronic data interchange, and in the outbound logistics, just-in-time purchasing is not happening there. Right. Let's move on to question number 10. Select the correct statements with reference to levels of strategy. So what are the statements given? Creating a suitable marketing plan for a product can be considered as a business strategy. Decisions relating to structure of the group as a whole comes under business strategy. Setting goals for the whole entity is a part of corporate strategy. A strategic plan for a business unit is likely to be unsuccessful if strategies are not effective at the operational level. So let's see how this is discussed in the textbook. So corporate strategy and business strategy and operational or functional strategies. So when you look at these areas, separate strategic levels will have separately impacting decisions made. So for example, it occurs at different levels in the organization, and the corporate level, divisional level, or in the functional level. So the organizations can also be divided into several operating units. We call it strategic business units or SBUs. So if you look at each of these aspects, it's clear that the answer for this question is all about what decisions are or how it affects in each level, rather than what is a strategic decision. So this is about the different level of strategy. So here it talks about business level, here it talks about business level, here it talks about corporate level strategy, and this is talking about how operational level are impacted at that strategy taken. So the answer here has to be considered with the level of the strategy. So this statement, can it be correct? Creating a suitable marketing plan for a product. So marketing plans and product related things are done in the product related things, and marketing decisions are taken as the business strategies, not at the corporate level. It's taken at the business level. So that is correct. Decisions relating to the structure of the group as a whole comes under business strategy. No, it does not come under business strategy. All the decisions relating to the structure of the group comes under corporate strategy. These are the highest level decisions. So those kind of decisions are at the most higher level, which is the corporate level. So number 2 here is not correct. Setting goals for the whole entity is part of the corporate strategy. Yes, corporate strategies is all about taking decisions considering the overall organization, the complete group of companies or holdings, the overall at the highest level decision. So setting goals at the entire entity, yes, it's correct. A strategic plan for a business unit is likely to be unsuccessful if strategies are not effective at the operational level. So this is what they are saying is, even though the decisions are taken at corporate level and they are then further taken at the business strategy level, how each of the business units have to do, and then the strategies has to be actioned, strategies have to be followed at the operational level. So if it is not feasible, or if there are problems following it, if the strategies are difficult to be adhered to, then there's a problem and the strategy is going to be unsuccessful if at the operation level, if the strategy cannot be followed. So other than this statement, all the other three statements are correct. So the answer is C. Right. Let's move on to question number 11. Select the correct statements with reference to big data. So this question is all about big data. Let's read the statements first. If data is too big and moving too fast, organizations must find an alternative way to process that data. Main benefit of big data analytics is the ability to process very large amount of information. Organizations can't use external capacity to store data for big data analytics. Organizations can gain a competitive advantage depending on the velocity of data. So to look at this, let's see how the textbook is explaining this. So big data is about, when we talk about big data, most of the questions they are talking about the 5 V's, which is volume, velocity, variety, veracity and value. So you have to have a good idea about these 5 V's, because this is a very commonly asked area in this syllabus. So better to go through this area more and more. So if we look at what says here, use of external capacity like cloud computing. Now the organizations, most of the organizations will not have necessary technological infrastructure within the organization to handle big data, to process, and the technical expertise, because the organizations have their core business to focus on. And their core business is not analyzing big data. Their core business can be something different, selling some kind of a product. So when big data analytics and handling big data is needed, most organizations will not have an internal capacity to address this process. So organizations has to use external capacity like cloud computing capacity to store and analyze data, because you need high processing power and a large storage where most of the organizations may not have with them at the moment. So if we look at one of these things, we just looked at this aspect. Organizations can't use external capacity. So this statement is wrong. So we have to rule out this statement because this is wrong. Then if we look at the other aspects, velocity. It is important to recognize that competitive advantage an organization can gain from velocity relates to the speed which the data is processed and the velocity of a system's output. So if you look at this answer point, organization can gain a competitive advantage depending on the velocity of the data, which is correct. So we looked at it now. Organizations can process the data as soon as the data is received, and because the data is storing or generated fast, organizations can take their decisions faster. So this answer is correct. And if we look at data is too big and moving too fast, organizations must find an alternative way to process that data. So what is the alternative way? the organizations has to go for big data analytics techniques. They can't just look at the data and try to figure it out. They have to use software and technologies which does big data analytics. There are separate software which can be used for that. And this statement is saying main benefit of big data analytics is the ability to process very large amount of information. So this is actually a kind of a definition for big data analytics, because big data, the word the big say itself says there's a huge enormous amount of data stored and which is waiting to be processed. So big data analytics is the tool or the technique that we use on big data to understand the relationships and needed patterns. So this also correct. So for the question number 11, answer can be taken as C, because this statement is not correct. Now let's move on to question number 12. Having data does not benefit the organization unless it is converted into valuable information. So in question number 12, let's see how this is discussed. The distinction between simply having data and having useful information is important, because having more data available is not going to benefit the organization. Why? Because the organization has to have information which has some kind of a value. Some data just collected somewhere is not going to help the organization, because organizations, they need these data to be analyzed and used for their business decisions. So organization benefit if that the data is converted into valuable information, and then the managers can use the information to make effective decisions which can help the organization. So for example, to improve operational efficiency and the customer experience, or enable new products to be developed. So data has to be converted into valuable information. Other than that, if the data is just processed, and if the processed information is not giving any value or any benefit or any contribution to decision making, it's not beneficial. So those benefits can be, let's see what are the 4 answer points given. Ability to motivate staff, improved operational efficiency, ability to create new business models, mitigation of operational risks. So if you look at improved operational efficiency and ability to create new business models are clearly explained here. Operational efficiency and new business models. So these are the benefits. Among these 4, the 2 benefits are operational efficiency improvements and ability to come up with new business models. So the answer is 2 and 3, which is answer D. Now let's move on to question number 13. As per McKinsey's Big Data report, what are the broad ways big data can create value for organizations? So most of the answers given has a little difference. If you see, decision making, creating transparency, cost management, performance improvement, new products and services, and most of the answers are having most of the answer points in it. So let's look at how this is explained. So this is where it explains the value of big data. So it says McKinsey's Big Data report in 2011 also highlights the ability to create and transparency and other 5 broad ways. So let's see what are the 5 broad ways. Creating transparency. So all the stakeholders can access relevant and timely information in a given time. And then performance improvement. Transactional data is stored and it provides organization with an increasing amount of accurate and detailed performance data. So performance improvement can be done using these data because a valuable data is provided after these being processed. Market segmentation and customization. So this is also possible because of the volume and the variety in big data. It enables to understand different markets and how to customize the products or services. So if you look at the set of answer points, decision making was discussed, new products and services was discussed, market segmentation and customization was discussed, and then performance improvement also discussed, and creating transparency was discussed. So the answer which has all four is this is not one of those things, so this answer is wrong. Risk mitigation is not one of those things. Again, cost management is not that. So let's see the answer D, how it goes. Performance improvement, creating transparency, new products and services, market segmentation and customization, decision making. Correct. So answer D is the correct answer. Right. So let's move to question number 14. Developments in IT such as word processing, electronic schedules, desktop-based databases and web publishing are known as. I think everyone should be familiar with by now. Let's read the four answers first. Office processing systems, office automation systems, office sharing systems, office management systems. So how this is explained in the book is communication technology in information systems. Developments in IT have facilitated the distribution of data, making it instantly available to those who require it. Such developments are known generally as office automation systems. So you can see these features are available when we say office automation systems. So we use word processing, we use calendar and scheduling feature, we have desktop databases that we use, web publishing, voicemail, email. So all these aspects are part of office automation systems. So the correct answer should be office automation systems, which is the second answer, answer B. Question number 15. HR planning concerns the acquisition, utilization, improvement and return of an enterprise's human resources. It is also referred to as workflows planning and workforce strategy. What does HR planning deal with? So the 4 points given are retention of employees, downsizing, dealing with changing circumstances, dealing with employment conflicts. So let's see how it is discussed in the textbook. So in the HRM section, in the HR planning section, it says HR planning concerns the acquisition, utilization, improvement and return of an enterprise human resources. HR planning may sometimes be referred to as workforce planning or workforce strategy. So then the HR planning deals with these areas. budgeting and cost control, recruitment, retention, keeping the staff and developing them so that they will not leave, downsizing when it is needed to reduce the staff numbers, training and retraining to enhance their skills, and dealing with changing circumstances. So the answer points given: retention of employees is correct, downsizing when needed is correct, dealing with changing circumstances also correct, but dealing with employment conflicts is not part of this, so that's not correct at this question. So first 3 points are correct. So for question number 15, answer is C. Let's move on to question number 16. An enterprise resource planning system can be broken into a few main components or modules, which can be further broken into smaller components. Select the correct ERP component. So the question is saying, in treasury management module, credit management is there. In the finance module, profitability analysis and reporting is there. In the sales and distribution module, billing and returns is there. And again in the finance module, payroll is there. So we'll see whether actually these modules have these sub-components in it. So for question number 16, let's go and see how it is explained in the textbook. So you can see ERP software is having many modules, and inside these modules we can further divide it into sub-components. So finance, controlling and management accounting, treasury management, inventory and warehouse management. So like that, this is giving the key components of a typical ERP and its sub-components which are generally used. So if you look at treasury management, does it have credit management? So if you see treasury management, under that, yes, it's having credit management, so it's correct. In the finance module, does it have profitability analysis and reporting? So in the finance module, there is it's not there, but profitability management analysis and reporting can be found in the controlling and management accounting module. So that answer is not correct. Sales and distribution module, does it have billing and returns? Sales and distribution module, does it have billing and returns? Yes, correct. So sales and distribution module is having order entry, returns, billing and pricing, all these 4 subsections. So that is correct. And finance, does it have payroll? Finance doesn't have the payroll. So the payroll can be found in the HR management module. So for this question, the answer is A, which is having 1 and 3, which are the only correct statements. Let's move on to question number 17. Which of following statements are correct with reference to strategic enterprise management systems? So there are 4 statements given. Let's check the textbook first. Strategic ERPs. Strategic Enterprise Resource Management Systems. Strategic Enterprise Management Systems focus primarily on strategic management. So this is mainly focusing on the strategic aspect of it. Whereas ERP is primarily focusing on the operational aspect of it. So if you really look at one of the questions is, there should be a clear segregation, focuses primarily on operational and strategic management of the organization. So it's a strategic enterprise management system does not focus on both of these things. Strategic enterprise management system focus on the strategy aspect. ERP is focusing on the operational aspect. So if you need to focus on the strategy, you need a strategic enterprise management system. But this one does not focus on the both. So the third statement is wrong. And first statement, this can be seen as a substitute for balanced scorecard. Can we see is at a substitute for balanced scorecard? So strategic enterprise management systems can be seen as an extension of balanced scorecard. So this is an extension of balanced scorecard. This is not a substitute. So it extends what the balanced scorecard can do, and it further extends that approach. So it enhances that approach. So in this question, it's not a substitute. So this is wrong. This is also, it's not both of it, it's only the strategic part. This encourages senior managers to combine financial and strategic measures when formulating business decisions, and this provides organization with the capability to support financial consolidation to manage both strategy and performance through a single piece of software. So these can be found in this explanation because they encourage senior managers to combine financial and strategic measures when formulating business decisions, and organization with the capability to support financial consolidation and to manage strategy and performance through a single piece of software. So everything is explained in these small paragraphs. So the answers are this statement is correct and this statement is correct. So the answer is A, which is the correct answer. Now let's move on to question number 18. SAP is a good example for a strategic enterprise management system. What are the main components of SAP? So the answer this gives is has a lot of common aspects to all the answers here. So then we'll look at what the textbook is saying here. SAP Strategic Enterprise Planning, Enterprise Management is an example ERP system. Has 5 components. First thing is business planning and simulation, corporate performance monitoring, business consolidation, business information collection, stakeholder relationship management. So if we look at the answer points, business planning and simulation, yeah, it's available in all 4 answers. Corporate performance monitoring, corporate performance monitor, corporate performance monitor, and corporate performance monitor. It is available in 3 of the answer points, and consolidation, information collection, and stakeholder relationship. So if we look at all the remaining items, only the question which is having the answer point which is having this one is the correct answer. So answer C is having all the aspects mentioned correctly, whereas other answers are having wrong points as well. Right. So question number 18, answer is C. So you can read in detail how this SAP program is giving these aspects of the enterprise management system. Right. Let's move on to question number 19. Which are the correct statements with reference to the material requirement planning or MRP1 system? So what are the correct statements? So the statements here are saying MRP1 is more suitable when sales cannot be forecasted. Material requirements are mainly calculated from known future customer orders. Major drawback of MRP1 is that it might lead to an increase in stock levels. The quantity of material required for different products will be defined in its bill of materials. So the question number 19, we'll look at how it explains in the textbook. Materials Requirements Planning, MRP1. Material requirements planning is a technique for deciding the volume and timing of materials in manufacturing conditions where there is a dependent demand. MRP1 is not appropriate if sales cannot be forecasted. So there you go. This is not appropriate if your sales cannot be forecasted. Right? So this statement is wrong. It's not suitable. You can't say it's suitable when the sales cannot be forecasted. If the sales cannot be forecasted, this is not appropriate. Right. Material requirements are calculated from known future orders. As an example, firm orders already received from customers. A forecast of the future orders that with a reasonable degree of confidence which will be received. So known future orders. Major drawback of MRP1 is that it might lead to an stock level zone. We discussed about this one. Material requirements are mainly calculated from known future orders. So this is correct. Quantities of each type of material required for the product or service will be defined in the bill of materials. Quantity of material required for different products will be defined in the bill of materials. This is correct. Now this is about the stock levels. We'll see what the textbook is saying about that. It explains here that it can reduce the stock levels by being able to meet the orders. The system can identify and warn of production problems such as bottlenecks, and it can assist with just-in-time management by forging close relationship with suppliers. So this can help to reduce the keeping of stock levels, because this helps this overall process of managing stock levels. So this is also wrong in this statement, because it will not lead to an increase in stock level. This will help to reduce the stock level. So this is this answer point is wrong. So therefore this one and the last answer point is correct. So the answer for question number 19 is answer B. Let's move on to question number 20. Question number 20 is about the division of responsibilities in a typical system is given below. So when you look at these items, these 2 blanks and 5 items are given. This is about the variance or the performance reports between the budgets and the variance. So let's move on to the section which explains this part clearly. So variance performance reports, this is discussed after the budget. So this is discussing the differences between the actual and the budget revenue, and this is analyzing these 2 aspects of it. So in this one, it's clearly labeled how each step is happening. First the plans are made, then control decisions are taken, and then control actions are put into effect, and then finally the results are measured. After the results are measured, then the report can be generated on actual results and feedback. So you can read more on the variance or the performance reports based on the budgets and other cost schedules. So if you look at the answer, plans are made is the first step. Second step is control decisions. When the plans are made, then control decisions has to be made. And then plan control actions are put into effect. And number 4, results has to be measured. Then only the report on actual results are compiled. So the answer for this is control decisions and results are measured in the correct order. Question number 21. Software providing functions that can be used by collaborative work environment teams are known as collaborative work environment teams. So if you look at where does this talk about collaborative work groups, this is the set of software or the type of software. We call it groupware. So groupware, this is a term used to describe software that provides functions that can be used by collaborative work groups. These features include a scheduler, an address book, to-do lists, or to keep track of the things that they do, a journal kind of a interaction recording system, and taking quick notes, and file sharing and distribution utilities. So the answer for question 21 is groupware. Desktop publishing is creating documents and brochures like graphic art for publishing purposes. Cloud computing is about scalable services for storage and software. Web publishing is, as the name says, publishing content on the web. So groupware is about working collaboratively in teams, having these functions included in it. So it also has group scheduling, public folders, messaging between the members in the group. So groupware is the category of the software. Now if you look at question number 22, the characteristics of big data are. So to understand this question, let's move on to the section in the textbook. Big data. So we discussed this in an earlier question also. This is about when we characterize big data, we always talk about the 5 V's, which are volume, velocity, variety, veracity, and value. So if you look at the answer points given here, all the answer points mostly have all the V's with a small difference. So all the correct V's are mentioned in answer D. Yes, variety, velocity, veracity, volume, and value. So answer D is correct. Question number 23. Identify the 4 stages which organizations typically go through when introducing e-business. So this question is about e-business. Let's look at how it is explained here. So e-business, up to becoming an e-business, finally becoming an e-business, there are many other stages that a traditional organization should pass. So these are the 4 steps. First, an organization should start by having a web presence, where the organization can have a website to provide information on the products and services, the FAQs, the technical specifications, contact details, and so forth. And then the organization can move on to upgrade the website with basic e-commerce facilities, which allows purchasing and selling to suppliers and customers using a simple payment gateway. And then the website can then, the basic e-commerce site can then improve into an integrated e-commerce site where supply chain of the organization and the real-time processing of the orders and the requests are also digitalized and integrated in the website. So earlier it was just accepting the payment, it was just the transaction, and then the organization can advance and improve into integrating the key aspects of the business into this digital platform, and then finally almost all operations and all the attributes or all the factors that the organization does can be included in the final stage when the organization is fully integrated into a electronic business platform. So the answer in this one is web presence has to be first thing, and then a basic e-commerce website, and that has to be improved into an integrated e-commerce site, and then finally it has to be a e-business site. So for 23, answer should be B. Question number 24. The model in which supplier and buyers trade regularly through an open marketplace where there is no structural relationship known as. So let's look at how this is explained in the textbook. So these are the e-payment methods which are linked, explained here. So there are several methods: public web, exchange, supplier centric, buyer centric. So the public web is individual buyers find individual suppliers on the web and make purchases. There is no structural relationship between buyer and the supplier. So websites like Amazon, this is what happens, right? Individual buyers and individual suppliers, they do business over the web. Exchange. Suppliers and buyers trade through a third party upon marketplace. They have no structural relationship even though they may regularly deal with each other. Right? So this is pre-identified related suppliers and buyers, but they usually use some kind of a platform to do trading. Supplier centric. An individual supplier gives access to organizations who want to buy. So the this software or the platform is created by the supplier, or it can be the buyer centric. Right? The individual companies can have contracts with number of different suppliers. Right? So things like that. So in the question, this is talking about suppliers and buyers trading through a third party app, which is called the exchange method. So you can see all the other methods are there, but it says suppliers and buyers trade regularly through an open marketplace. So the for 24, answer is A. Question number 25. External environment is the source of opportunities and threats for an organization. The environment can also act as a trigger for change in organizations. These triggers can be classified as direct and indirect. Select the answer that includes only indirect triggers. So let's see what are the indirect triggers. So triggers are from the external environment for the organization, so that organization should respond effectively. It can be either opportunity or it can be either threat, but the organization has to respond to these triggers from the environment. So there can be indirect and direct triggers. So direct triggers are if you are in the business with a particular product and another organization, another competitor starts selling the same type of a product, so try to compete. So that's a direct trigger, right? And for example, if the supply chain changes, the simple example, what happened these days of the COVID situation, some supply chains were broken. So it's a direct trigger that without the supplies being brought in, it's very difficult for some organizations to perform. But indirect triggers, which are not clearly straightforward, for example, after this pandemic, after this COVID-19 situation, there will be a damage which has happened over the last 2 months to the economy. So people will lose jobs, people will spend money very carefully. So therefore people will limit their purchases. So that's an indirect trigger, right? There will be new laws. Now recently commodity taxes was increased to support the local producers. So that is another indirect trigger for some organizations who are relying on those imported products. So things like that, even the technology. For example, some businesses now are using online payment methods to order items. There were several small organizations who came up with an online website where customers can put their order on the website and they can deliver. So organizations who couldn't adopt to that found it difficult to sell anything during the lockdown period. So these are the indirect triggers. So let's see how the answer are taking place here. So it can be changes in the economic cycle, yes. It can be new laws or changes in customer expectations or tastes. You can see it here, new laws or changes in the customer expectations and tastes. Changes in product or process technology. It can be a different technology now, new improvements have been made. So those are the key things in indirect triggers. Other answer points will have direct triggers as well. So the answer for this to question 25 is answer C. So in this video we expected to discuss the first half of the mock paper, 25 questions, and with the next video, which is the part 2 of this mock paper discussion, we will discuss from question 26 onwards. Always try to use the textbook, and whatever the additional information, use reliable sources. Even internet can be used, but always compare. If you are using information from different websites which are difficult to trust, then even refer textbooks which can give you correct information. So let's meet in the next video for the part 2 of the mock paper. Thank you.